everyone, my name is Katy Solange. For people that don't know me yet, I'm here every week where I talk about true life crime stories. I drink my vino. Talking with friends, you need a good wine. And at the same time, I do my makeup. Everything that I wear for makeup will be down below. And if you have any questions, let me know. Also, if you like these videos, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share. I'll thank you if you do that. Today we're going to talk about Joseph James DeAngelo. He is a sadistic manipulator, living a double life murderer. It was all about terror. So sit down, people. Sit down and let's listen to this first story in English. Joseph James DeAngelo Jr. was born on the 8th of November in 1945. He is serial killer, serial rapist, burglar, and the former police officer who committed at least 13 murders, 50 rapes, and over 120 burglaries across California between the years of 1973 and 1986. Growing up, he didn't have an easy life. His father used to be physically abusive to him and verbally abusive to him. Not just to him, to his mother too. There have been several times where the police was called to the house, where the mother's been beaten repeatedly. Also growing up, he was out playing with his little sister. His sister was 7 years old at the time. And he saw two men approaching and he didn't think anything of it. And then the two men got his sister and started to her, and he just sat there and watched while the two men his 7-year-old sister. After he watched his sister being apparently he changed quite a lot. As a young kid, he started to go into people's houses, not to steal and then use the things that he stole, but more like to just be in their house and take things that it mattered to them. Then from just going into people's houses and robbing. And then he progressed to being a peeping Tom, which means he would stay outside the windows where there would be girls inside in the rooms, like getting changed or whatever. He would basically stalk them and just look through their window and obsess about them. According to him, together with wanting to burglarize houses and, you know, looking at girls through the window, he also dreamt of being a police officer. So he decided to study criminal justice. He did that, and eventually he did become a police officer. When he was a police officer, there was a lot of houses were being robbed. And when I say a lot, I mean like a lot. In one night, sometimes it will be 2 houses or 3. And what they've noticed about whoever was robbing these houses, they wouldn't really take things of much value. Then it was also the things that he broke around the house. He also would hurt dogs or animals. If animals were there, he would hurt them. And let's be fair, no one likes to know that an intruder has gone into their house. So because of the amount of houses that were being robbed, a task force was created to help solve this crime. And guess what? Joseph was part of that task force. So basically, he was part of the task force of his own robberies. Couldn't get any better, could it? So obviously they didn't catch him because he was also part of it and he knew exactly where everyone was at all times. The other thing was just robbing houses and looking at girls wasn't satisfying him that much anymore. He became obsessed with these 2 girls and he just started stalking them. He knew where they were and he would drive past there. She started noticing this same car just driving past her all the time, and every time she tried to look at the person to see who was driving, he would look away or put his hand like this. So basically she was never able to recognize the face, and obviously that was suspicious to her because she noticed she started being followed. His first victim was 20 years old. She lived with her mum. And mum left for a work trip and she was home alone. She was sleeping and she was woken up by this noise, and then as she opened her eyes there was a light on her, and she saw a masked man with like a black mask, and he went, "Freeze, don't move." Can you be more police officer than this? He said to her, "Don't do anything stupid, don't scream, you know, if you're good, I'm going to let you go." And after he was done, he left her on the bed, still tied up, and she just started screaming for help after a long time, because she needed to be sure that he wasn't there anymore before she started screaming for life. But doing that to her wasn't enough. So what he did after the assault, for many, many months afterwards and years, he kept calling her home phone, and he would call and he would leave this chilling video. Going to kill you, and he would call her all sorts of names. Very chilling. But he did that with many, many other victims. So he loved playing with their emotions. He loved fear. He worked on fear. There was one time that there was two girls living together, and he assaulted one. The other one wasn't home. As the other one comes home, he makes sure she sees him, and she hides under the kitchen cabinet. Not under, you know, next to the kitchen cabinet. And he just waited there. He did like the sound of the shoes leaving, and then she came up like to look if he was there, and he's like, "Ah, got ya." He didn't do anything to her, but he just wanted to make her really scared. He was already done with her friend, so he just let her go, but he just wanted to scare her. He loved fear. This man is evil. Going back to what he was doing. So his second victims were two sisters. They were at home. He, one of them, but only tied up the other one, and he didn't do anything to the other one. He decided that he was hungry. So after he did what he did to one of the sisters, he went into the kitchen, opened the fridge, helped himself to their food, their drinks, and then he went back in the room and he again assaulted the same victim. His third attempt was again two girls at home. He thought they were home alone. He went in. He tried to assault them. The mum heard. She ran back in, and she was on time to fight him off. So no damage there. I'm not going to go through all the assaults that he performed, if that's even the word that we should use here, but I'm not going to talk about all the assaults. As you heard earlier, there was a lot of them. So I'm just going to say some of them so I can explain the changes that he was having and when and everything else and so on. Victim Jane Carson, on 5th of October 1975. It was about 6 a.m. when her husband left for work. Every morning when the husband would leave for work that early, the little kid, he was 3 years old, he would come into his mama's bed, you know, to have a little cuddle before the day starts. So the husband leaves the house, and literally a minute later she hears this noise, and she's like, "Oh, why are you back?" Oh no, sorry, she thought, "Why are you back?" She didn't say it loud because, you know, she had a 3-year-old cuddling with her in bed. And then she just heard these footsteps running towards the room. And as she hears that, she looks, and she also sees a light. And immediately fear went through her whole body, because she knew that wasn't her husband. So you can imagine she's frozen with fear, holding her son, and he comes in and she sees that it's a masked man with a black mask, and she's petrified. The son is there. And then he ties her up and he gags them both. Then he decides to take the small kid, the young kid, the 3-year-old kid, to the other room, which to her, that petrified her to not have her son near, because she didn't know what he was doing. But he came back quick, and when he came back, she knew straight away what he wanted, because he cut the cords on her feet and he After he was done with her, he turned her on her front and he put the ropes around her feet again. He went to the kitchen. He made dinner for himself. He didn't just have a snack. He made dinner. You can imagine this mum in that room and the son in the other, gagged, waiting while he eats his food. He comes back. I'm not entirely sure if he done it again or if he left her alone, but either way, the ending of this attack is he then goes and gets her son. She still couldn't see, but she could feel that he dropped her son next to her on the bed, and then he went away. When she did establish that he was gone and they were safe, she just started screaming. No one could hear her, but she managed to take the ropes off her feet, and then she just dragged herself to a neighbor's house, and that's when the police came. There was one instance when he was doing his thing with this lady that he started crying out loud, "Oh no, Bonnie wouldn't like this. Bonnie doesn't like it when I do this. You don't like this, Bonnie? No, you don't like it?" And he just starts sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. So there was more than one occasion where he mentioned the name Bonnie and he cried. So this was said to the police more than once. What I don't understand is, from the attacks, you could map it and see that he knew the area really well. So you could, one would deduct that, let's find all the Bonnies around this area and a bit more, and let's go and talk to them and see if any of them would have any contact with someone like the rapist, or, maybe the area has loads of Bonnies. Anyway, no one tried to look for Bonnie. Now, Bonnie, we came to find out who she was after his arrest. Bonnie was his ex-girlfriend. Bonnie was his fiancée for about a year. And then she broke up with him because apparently he was her first. And she didn't know any better. But what happened was they would spend the whole night having sex. But he would wait until he was about to climax to stop completely, go and get something to eat, and then he would carry on. And it was just getting too much for her, that kind of behavior, and she broke up with him. But what hurt him the most, it wasn't the fact that she just broke up with him after years of engagement, was also the fact that she got married a year later. Sorry, what did he do? He got married too. He met this woman, he proposed, and he got married to her. Because, that's what you do. If someone breaks up with you and gets married to someone, go ahead and the first person that you meet, propose to them and marry them. That's completely normal. At the same time, in the 1970s in Sacramento, rape victims weren't taken seriously. There was even adverts on the TV where you said something along the lines of, "Look at her. Why is she walking alone at night? Why is she wearing a skirt? She's asking for it. Women, stop asking for it." Something along the line. So women, before, they were being blamed for being raped. So if you're pretty, if you're wearing a skirt, if you're alone at night, if you walk alone, you're going to get raped. And it's okay because it's your fault. So that was the kind of thing that was going on back at that time. Until one day that he saw this girl. And he decided that he wanted her. And he tried, the boyfriend was with her. And he tried to fight off the boyfriend. But unfortunately, the boyfriend was quite strong and he was going to go for him. So he shot the boyfriend and the boyfriend died. After that, so it was after he murdered someone that they actually started taking this as a serial killer and as a serious thing that was happening. But if it wasn't for the murderer, I don't know how many more would have been just raped and they wouldn't have done anything about it. But the other thing is, he liked it, didn't he? He tasted the blood and he loved it. One of the victims, one of them was a police officer that caught him outside their house, and he knew that it was him because he was all over the news. They were just looking for him everywhere. And the police officers just saw him and went, "Stop," and pointed at him. And he said, Joseph said, Don't shoot, I surrender, don't shoot." The police officer thinking, oh, okay, lower this gun. And as he did that, Joseph shot the police officer, but didn't get him. He got his torch and just ran off. So he got away. But as he said that, don't shoot, don't shoot, he took his mask off so the police officer would believe him. And the police officer had a little glimpse at him in the dark. So they started doing sketches of his face. And these sketches were everywhere. He was all over the news every day. Everyone was in pure fear. So the newspapers were saying, you know, he only attacks girls alone at home with no big dogs. So there was a frenzy, everyone buying big dogs, everyone buying locks, extra locks. Like, I mean, he was everywhere on the news. But let's remember this, he, like many others, loved the attention and he followed the news. So that to him just incentivized or motivated him to do what? He then started going to houses where the husbands were in, where there was big dogs, where anywhere that the news would go, oh, no, he doesn't do this, oh, he doesn't do that, that's what he would start doing. So that's what he did. He saw this couple at home. He went in and he got the girlfriend to tie, the wife to tie the husband up, and she tied them up, and then he tied her up. Then he puts the husband on his front and he puts plates on the top of his back. So if the husband would move, he would know while his wife and while the husband is listening to all of this. So again, it's just horrible games. Went to the kitchen, he did some food, but he also put some plates on her back to see if any of them would move. And then he left. The second time he did that, he killed the husband. The third time he did that, he killed the husband, the wife. Eventually, he kills two of them. There was just non-stopping this evil man, this monster. Then it just got to the point that nothing really mattered. It didn't matter the age. It didn't matter who they were. Well, as long as it was women. He only liked women. Yeah, but nothing mattered to him anymore. He was just doing it. Whatever the newspaper said he wasn't doing, then he would do it. 1997, this 13-year-old called Margaret was at home, and he goes in, he ties the mother up and takes her to one room. Again, he put plates on her back, and he just did what he was doing. He was putting the plates on the back and making sure they didn't get up. And the poor mum had to listen to her own daughter going through what he was doing. It's evil. It's just pure evil. Like, can you imagine? But anyway, enough of like what he did. Here's a funny fact. Well, not funny, a fact. In one of the when they called the police, the body was so freshly touched, if that's the word to use in this case. Well, I'll explain what I'm trying to say here. So they were able to take a fingerprint from her body, which I didn't know that was an option. Apparently there's a time limit on when or how long until, but yeah, they got a fingerprint from that. But even with the fingerprint, they just could not catch him. He goes into this shop and he gets caught stealing dog repellent and a hammer. Now remember, he's a police officer, so obviously when they came in, they found out what he did. He was dismissed from the police force. Now, the reason why he was buying that dog repellent, if you think about it, is not something that he wants to be seen buying. And also for dogs, because he started attacking houses with big dogs. But not only that, it's very clever. What if the search dogs would be looking for him? If he wears the dog repellent, that's going to confuse the dogs completely and they wouldn't be able to find them. He was thinking about everything. After the rape committed in July 1979, DeAngelo moved to California. And as I mentioned, he got a taste for blood. So it was there that he just decided that he was also going to kill all his victims. So this was in 1979. His attacks lasted until 1981. He was terrorizing everyone. He was murdering everyone. On December the 30th, this doctor and his wife were going to meet their friends on Sunday to play some tennis. But unfortunately, their plans were ruined on Saturday night. So he saw them in the house and he decided that was going to be their next victims. He goes in and he shoots the husband and he takes the wife, where he raped her more than once. When he's finished, he also shoots her, and he's done this to other couples as well. And he goes to the kitchen, and it was Thanksgiving time, so there was a turkey that was cooked and a quarter eaten in the fridge, and he just helped himself to the food in the fridge. But not only that, when the police got there, there was just bones scattered along the house. When I say bones, I mean the turkey bones, not their bones. Not their bones. Not that it's still bad enough, but yeah. So he scattered all the bones. So it was taking the mick. And he also either had a wee or a poo in the middle of their kitchen as well. And the bodies were found the next day by the friends that were going to play tennis with them on Sunday. But moving on, you remember he had a wife. He had a wife. So in 1986, his first daughter was born, and shortly after, in 1989, his second daughter was born. In between that time, he had a 5-year gap where he's decided not to kill or not do anything. Not that we are aware of. He hasn't been connected to anything during those 5 years. In 1989, that year that either his wife was pregnant or she just gave birth, he got the urge again. He did the same as usual, but this time the way was horrific. He hit her so hard in the face that the police had to use the dental records to find out who she was. It was just full of rage. We don't know if it is because she knew who she was or just he was super frustrated. After that, it went quiet again. Years went past. 20 years went past, and we still didn't know who it was. But the detective, Paul, never gave up. And there was this, you could see this ancestry thing, you know, like the 22andMe or Ancestry.com, where they find your relatives, like your past relatives. Well, he was wondering if they could do that the reverse, like see if anyone was in that database that was connected to him, and from that to find them. He contacted Barbara Riventa and asked her if this was possible. She said, sure, let's at least try and catch this monster. They worked on it for it took them 4 months to come up with these massive trees of families. So they found out that he was from an Italian descent, and he was white, and he had blue color eyes, and eventually it just came down to one. So they waited for him to put the rubbish out, and voila, they got his DNA. It was a match. They arrested him. Do you know what he said when they arrested him at his house where he lived with his daughter and his granddaughter? He said, I've got a roast in the oven. Are you sure this needs to be done now? What? This was in 24th of April 2018 that they arrested him. There were so many victims, and most of them wanted to be present. And some of them got to say many things to his face and tell them that they are okay and he's an evil monster and they hate him. He ended up apologizing to them, which I think is a lot of bull. Come on, really? He was just saying what he thinks people wanted to hear, like most of them do. There you go. 11 life sentences with no mercy, and an addition of another 8 years. So just pure evil. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for being here, for listening to me, for following me, for today. Or if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, I'll be here next week. And thank you again. Bye-bye. Ciao.